like that before either. I'd love to know the story. And this is Deb Chemical Works that started off in a small shed when we lived there, a very small shed. And I remember he had a fire and we all helped him get all the chemicals and everything out.
That was Swarfiga, wasn't it?
It's my brand name is Swarfiga, but it's still made at Deb Chemicals. But now it's empty. They've moved their site to near Denby Pottery, and the whole place is up for sale. But it takes up the whole of that square there. It goes right down to Nottingham Road now. And of course, opposite there is Piggy Lane, but we'll come to that in a minute. It doesn't look anything like Piggy Lane used to, but that's Piggy Lane, where the garage is built at the end. Used to be a big pile of pebbles, I remember. I remember sitting in them and winding wool that I'd at last got with the clothing coupons. Now here's where there used to be a horse trough here, and it had to be moved because the trucks from the Deb couldn't get round. So they moved it to the bottom of the street, which is now on Nottingham Road. And here is where Mrs. Salt's fish and chip shop used to stand, and it's no longer there, and that's real sad. But it was only a wooden building that I don't know when it went, but we had lots of nice fish and chips from there. Now this is Belper Pottery Methodist Church, where I got married. I was the second person ever to get married there because they'd only just opened the aisle for two people to walk down it. It used to be now, I don't know where this is. Oh, it's the church again from the side. That's right, looking up the road, and the co-op used to be opposite. That's where we used to do all our shopping. And I think the co-op's to our left. We've passed it, but again, the photographer didn't know the co-op, and that was Julie. And this is going up towards Whitemore Lane. Now, here is where my wedding reception was held, and it's been debatable whether it's the pub on the right or the pub on the left, but I choose Cross Keys because I recall going through the doorway. Just some buildings going up to Whitemore Lane, I think, or in that area. Julie was fascinated by the humps for 35 yards. Now, this is the mill, the old cotton mill, English Sewing Cotton Company, if you recall, and that's the bridge that joined it to the houses which were on the left that were built for the workers. That's the weir, and this is where, as children, we spent a lot of time. We used to go boating on the water there, and paddle boats they were. That's the mill, which is, I don't know what it's used for now. I think it's lots of offices and things. And that's the weir that we recall as children. And on the right of it was where we used to go on the boats. And this is all the old equipment that used to drive the floodgates there. And again, to our left is where there's a place where you can eat now. This is quite emotional for me. I remember walking down here as a child. Oh God, stop crying now. And Mum playing the piano in the house at the bottom. We're going up it now, but we used to come down it. And Mum used to play the piano, and we all had fish and chips there. And that was Harriet Ryde's house, and her niece was Bridget Jackson, who we met later on in Belper. But yes, we used to have good times there. We used to all sing round the piano, and that's looking down, and that's the house that you see there, the white one. And all that flagstone on the floor, which even though it's been patched, is as it used to be. And this is looking from that channel across to, I don't know where, but I rather think it looks like Cowbell.
What's the channel called?
I don't recall the name of the channel. It wasn't Most Miss Channel. No, Most Miss Channel is further up the road. And that's me looking behind to where Mabel Jackson used to live, but I can't see anything because it's been blanked off. And this is where Grandma Varney used to live, and we used to walk through that. The gate wasn't there, of course, and the wall wasn't there, but the big stone where it says 83, and where we're looking, we would have looked at just a channel running through there. Grandma Varney's house on the right. We're now looking down on what used to be Grandma Varney's house, and that's where you used to walk down to the front door, but the house is no longer there, and that's where it used to stand. And the bin there is at the top of the steps where we used to go down to the front door, and that stands on Nottingham Road, Belper. A lady, that's the lady, Alice Goodall, who remembers all our names, reeled them all off one after another, and she's 83, I think. There's Gerald and I walking down another channel. They're all down, there must be at least 6 of them going from Nottingham Road down through to the bottom, which was on the side of a hill originally. And here we are again down another one, and I don't recall if this is Most Missed Channel. I don't think it is. I think this is actually looking downhill. It is. And that was another way you got to the houses, but of course that's blanked off now because they've built new houses behind it. But we used to love those areas. And this is at the bottom. You'd look down on this from Nottingham Road. There's a little stream that runs underneath and leads through to, I don't know, I don't recall where. But it was wonderful to be there again. And that is again looking up. Bridget Jackson used to live on the right, Grandma Varney on the left, and at the bottom was Harriet Rides. And that's my bike that Gerald let the dustbin men take away. I'm sure it's the same one. Somebody else put it back together. Yes, somebody gave me a bike, the Litchfields did. Now that at the bottom, with the flat top there, was where the accumulator man lived. And we used to take the accumulator, which was like a battery that ran the radio, and we used to rush there on a Friday night to get it charged up before we listened to Dick Barton's Special Agent. And that sign must have been neglected for many years. Nottingham Road, it says. And that's right near where the accumulator place was. This is all the alleyways down the side of the very old 3-story houses, which still stand and not quite neglected. And that leads to goodness knows where. It looks quite scary. But these again were led down to the cellars of the 3-story houses. Now this is Most Missed Channel. Don't know how you spell that, but we all refer to it as Most Missed Channel. And this is quite near to where we got the accumulator charged up. And we used to walk up Most Missed Channel, going back home, and it leads up to Spencer Road from Nottingham Road. And the rail on the right, I can remember not being able to reach that, but now it seems so small. And again, the dry stone wall, which is billowing out in parts, but is still quite magic. And that's the bottom of Most Missed Channel, looking at Nottingham Road. And that was just wonderful to stand on there, just wonderful. I've run down it many, many, many times with all of us running to get the accumulator charged. Now this Julie took because the roof has been moulded to the same shape as the lean-to, which was done quite well with tiles. That again is looking over Belper from Nottingham Road. That, I'm not sure where it is. We'll have to identify that. But that's looking from Nottingham Road. And this is St John's Road, which is St John's School, where we all went. Where Mum originally went when it was called the National School. And that's looking at St John's Road on our right. We're standing in Nottingham Road, and we're looking at the girls' entrance just to the right. Yes, she had separate, that's the girls' entrance. And there was also a boys' entrance round the corner on the main road. And again, this is standing in St John's Road. and that goes from Spencer Road. This is the school which is now made into flats, some of them with quite big rooms. I had a peek. And this is where the toilets used to stand on our right. You came down some steps from the right, and you can still see where the toilets were joined to this wall. That's looking to the assembly hall. I don't think we called it then. I can't remember what we called it. But that's looking from St John's Road. That's the place where the piano used to stand under that window, and where we all used to sing round the piano when we were being picked for the choir. And I think they felt sorry for me at the time, because they let me go. They let me go into the choir. That's the boys' entrance, which is on the main Nottingham Road. And that's opposite Cloggy Wassers, by the way. And that again is the front part that's on Nottingham Road. Again, opposite Cloggy Wassers. He used to make clogs. Now, this was very exciting for me. This is the prefab buildings, and this is Mr. Bull's class on the right, and this is where I used to sit. And that's the steps going into the classrooms, and that was the playground. And I think the next shot is where we used to play snobs. But that is all boarded up now, but I would have loved to have gone inside. Yes, that's the playground, and that's where we used to play snobs until the bullies started fighting. This is walking around what has now been made a driveway, but this is where we used to enter into school through a narrow gap, if you all remember, and I'm sure you do, but that's been widened to take cars into the church itself, which is now a visitor's, I don't know what you call it, but you can get all information. Community place, Julie tells me. But that again is St John's Church, that is now over 700 years old. I don't know the approximate date, but there used to be a stone slab that was a step that was almost through to the other side of it, because it had been walked on so many times. And they've gone and repaired it, and I hate it. I used to love that slab, but then I suppose people could have got underneath the door. It was a foot deep in wear. Now, I'm not sure what you call these things. I think they're called, what are they called? Lynch gates. I'm not sure, but these are the almshouses that we used to walk through to get our potato crisps with a little bit of salt in them. And these are built quite near to the church. The grounds have been tidied up. The gravestones have been tidied up, as in some of them removed and put in a line, which runs up the side of these trees. Now, somebody remembers, was it Tommy Akers that lived in those houses opposite? I just can't recall. But again, the church that's so old, it's amazing. We used to have harvest festivals in there. We'd go in for special times. There's the bell at the top of the church, and we did used to go in the church only on special occasions. And again, Nottingham Road is a one-way street now, and that is pointing towards high pavement. This we're looking at, that's number 25 Nottingham Road, the three-storey, not including, a cellar. There was a cellar underneath that, which made it 4 stories, and that's round the back way. I'm just going to see if I can see anything, but there wasn't a lot to see because it's all got hedges and sort of blocked off now. But that went further down from the back of 25 Nottingham Road, and I didn't pursue it down there, but it looked quite interesting. Like I say, these are all along Nottingham Road, and I only remember Most Miss Channel and the other one where Harriet Bride lived. And again, this is looking up towards Nottingham Road from the back of 25 Nottingham Road. And this is a worn step that's been there many generations, and it's worn down, and Julie found that interesting. And this is me again walking down another alleyway down in between the buildings. I don't know if I was trespassing, but at the time I didn't care. and again at the side of one of the buildings there. And I noticed there's a forest cropped up beyond there. And again looking up towards Nottingham Road. And it seems funny to see the cars there, because when we lived there, we didn't see any cars. There's another alleyway with worn flagstones, which is quite interesting how long they've stood there. And the white frontage there, which is brick painted, is where number 25 is. The one with the brick one is where Ivy Glue lived. This is Audrey Goff with Gerald and myself. And Audrey Goff's mother was a friend of our mother. And this is Audrey Goff's husband, and he's marvellous for 82, I think he is. Absolutely marvellous for that age. And of course, Julie. And I think we polished the lot off there, our cups of teas, but it was a nice welcome. And this is the Salvation Army in the Market Square, and we were shocked to find, pleasantly surprised I should say, to find that it was Hope's Cafe, and on the wall was a poem written about flowers by Wendy Cope, which was our great-grandmother's maiden name. She was Eleanor Cope. That's looking round the back of the Salvation Army, an alleyway that leads down there. Market Square again with the, what would you call it? There used to be horse troughs for horses to drink. And that's a business there that's in the Market Square now. And again, the Salvation Army wall there, where my mother's family attended. And this is Field Row, where the Varneys lived, Zipporah and Arthur Varney, and of course their sons Frank. And this is, I'm standing right outside number 4 Field Row, and talking to the lady that lives there now.